Okay, so what is that? Basically, that software life cycle, or also called SDLC, software development life cycle. It's basically there are some very distinct steps that a software must pass through. Okay, I mean, from zero to the end product. Okay, these are the phases that a software is going to pass through. They are very distinct, clear, and every phase having its own importance. Usually, you cannot jump. That is the thing. Like you cannot jump from one stage to the other step by bypassing one intermediate state. So basically, it's a sequential kind of thing. You can run some step parallelly with the others. That is fine, but you cannot skip a particular step and then jump to the some other step. So any big software development, they must pass through these major phases. Okay, what we call very commonly called SDLC, software development life cycle. Okay, so what are those stages? Those stages are basically feasibility analysis and or feasibility study, then your requirement analysis and specification, and then designing. Okay, then coding, testing. Okay, just a minute, I'm just getting a call. Okay, so these are some of the stages that it must pass through. Okay, so let's see one by one, and how we're going to conduct or carry out these stages. Okay, based on that, there are different types of life cycle models are available. Okay, so that will see gradually the different life cycle models. Okay, now what is that life cycle model? Is basically that a descriptive or diagrammatic model of a software life cycle. That means yeah, basically what will happen, how will going to conduct, or what will going to be a process of software development that normally deals with these different types of models as I mentioned. So what it's do is basically identify all different activities that you're going to take care during this product development. Okay, and which steps to be taken first and which steps to be taken next, that ordering sequence or precedence. Okay, about those activities will be identified, are usually to be identified during that in that model. These are pre-specified. Okay, these are pre-specified already, people are using those models. Okay, and any company or anyone can adopt any of the model for their software development. And of course, nowadays there are so many new models have already crop up within the industry, and hardly industry share these things with outside people. Okay, because they have their own style of working, and normally they don't share with the others. They try to maintain some certain level of secrecy. But yes, we are going to discuss few very popular or models. Okay, and the company they do some kind of customizations or modification of those models and for developing their product. Okay, so as I have mentioned, these models is nothing but whatever phases or steps that I have shown you in SDLC. These are the major steps that normally take part in those models. But how to do that thing, that actually varies from model to model. Okay, now what actually happens during that modeling actually help us to do that. It's basically a kind of a documentation. Okay, it's a kind of a documentation of different steps to be conducted. Okay, and as I mentioned, these are the descriptions within the model. That means the different phase, the in detail steps to be taken in different phases of software life cycle, software development life cycle. Okay, so that will going to take, I mean, playing a role of exchanging the information among the different phases. Okay, say first phase is your, let us assume, requirement analysis. Now that requirement analysis, the whatever you have done, that will go to the next phase. Say designing. From designing, there will be a documentation which will go to the I mean the next phase. So that way, the documentation will going to move from one steps to the or one phase to the other phase. Okay, so this is a document that everybody will need to be understand well. Okay, that what that software is, how we're going to conduct develop that software, what are the phases, and how we're going to take that steps or phases. Okay, so and these basically these written descriptions basically helps in identifying inconsistencies, redundancies, and if there is any omissions in the process development, that can be easily identified. It's everywhere, common in everywhere. Say, let us assume someone wants to develop or construct a very large building, okay, or a shopping mall. Normally people don't go directly and start working on that. What they do, they basically phase by phase they go ahead and then make a kind of a documented plan. There may be different documents, plans are which are available. Okay, and these documents will going to be exchanged among the team or with the other parties, or if the construction company will exchange with the vendor, sorry, the owner. So that the descriptions actually is a kind of a picture, a virtual picture of the thing what will going to be a finally, through which you can easily understand. Okay, fine. My flat will going to be look like this. Okay, my building will going to be look like this. So before construction, before actually truly it is happening, so these documents, you will assume that these whatever it is there in the document, these actually describe in first phase we're going to construct these are the apartment. In second phase we're going to construct these many apartments, or these are the buildings or floor that we're going to constitute or construct. So everything is going to be there, and if there is any discrepancies I mean there in that design or in that particular documentations, you can easily you can correct it at the very early stage. Okay, because it cannot be like that after constructing everything, then if you start detecting that there is a major flaws are there, so we're going to destroy the entire building once again and then again go for the reconstruction. No, it is never possible, never allowed. Okay, so normally what happens, so that's why for large constructions and everything, there must be a good planning should be there, documentation should be there, so that that can be easily detected at the early stage. Okay, so if it is in the documentations or something like that, if let us assume, because you can assume, say these will going to take 4 years time to complete that building construction. Now looking into that, you can think of, no, it's not possible to wait for 4 years. Let us do it in 3 years. So for that time, you can cut down some of the phases of the construction at the first stage. So that way you can plan, you can think of for any big engineering work. The same thing happening in case of software development also. So I mean, if you plan it in the pen and paper, it would be easier to estimate the overall time that it will going to take, and accordingly you can cut down or customize your timeline for completion of the whole software development. So so whenever any company, as I mentioned, there are or in the it may depend on the project that is which is in hand. taken by a particular company, and then looking into the nature of that particular project, they may decide a particular lifestyle model, because all it sometimes it is not all I mean all will not going to fit into the same type of model. Okay, it depends on the problem in hand. Okay, so that basically the company or the development team who has been given the task for a software development, they basically decide which life cycle model to be considered for that particular type of project. So once they develop, they make a kind of a overall planning, and that planning, it's not only for just planning, it also every phase is what to, when to start, when to end. Okay, what will be the possible cost of every phases, and everything can be chalk out during that when you are going for the life cycle model selections and all. Okay, so it can help because everything will going to be there in a pen and paper. So then it will be very systematic manner. One can see how the progress will going to happen for a particular software development. Okay, and at any time, if so let us assume the first phase should be completed within 3 months, and then since it is mentioned, you if you observe that it is now 5 months, then the project manager can have a control over the, no, we are actually crossing the whatever the estimations that we have done, it's crossing. There is a high chance that it may cross, but it should not beyond certain limit. Okay, otherwise it will going to give a effect to the other phases also, and finally it will touch the or affect in the ultimate delivery deadline. And that is most important. Delivery deadline should not be compromised as much as far as possible. Okay, now whatever we develop, we are basically, we are single developer. Whatever we are the sole authority of everything, taking decisions of what steps to be taken up, what steps not to be taken up. So they for a large development, as I mentioned earlier also, it is never being encouraged for a such kind of single programmer, because he will going to be the all in all of deciding what to do or not to do. So software large product development is purely a teamwork. Okay, and whenever there is a teamwork, there must be a very good understanding among the members of the team. Okay, there should not be any communication gap among the member of the team. Then otherwise it will be a chaos that may happen at the end. Okay, so that means which is normally happen in case of single developer based project also. Like you starting with one point thinking, then ending with no discussions and everything, and then you are going up at the end, and then finally you observe that you have not done a major part, you have missed a major part to do that thing. So normally that leads to a kind of a software failure, project failure that can happen over there. So once you have a team, you are more disciplined, you are more systematic. You can have a good chat and communications with your team, and the team, if it is, later on you'll observe that the teams are actually organized in a hierarchical fashion, where it may start it with the project manager, and then project leader, and among the project leader there may be few programmer coder. So that's why they have the different level of experience, and they need to report it to the higher of the hierarchy, and accordingly it can be a good coordination that can happen among the team members. So in that case, chances of project failure are going to be very less, almost negligible. Now, different models, as I have talked about, what are the different models which are there? Classical waterfall model, then iterative waterfall model, which is an extension of classical waterfall model. Then we'll see evolutionary, that is evolution, incremental, one after another, doing small, going on increasing type of or incremental type of software development life cycle. then prototyping, and then finally it's a spiral model. And spiral model is somewhat a bit complex type of software development model, but for larger project, yes, spiral model is also being used in the industry, definitely with some modifications. Now we have seen the different phases of software development: require feasibility study, requirement analysis, and specification design, coding and testing, integration and system testing, and maintenance. Now, why the name has been given waterfall? Okay, why the name has been given waterfall? You see, these are step by step process, one after the other. Once the feasibility study is completed, then the requirement analysis specification will going to start. And after the requirement going to specifications, it will going to be design, from design to coding and unit testing or testing, you can say, then integration and system testing, and then maintenance. So it's somewhat like water is falling from the top. Okay, it's like if there is a step by step process are there in some stream, then water will go fall from higher side to the lower side. So the with that analogy, the name has been given something called waterfall model. That water is falling from top to the bottom. So it cannot happen in the reverse. Okay, water cannot go back from low to the high. So that's why the name has been given waterfall model. So now why it is classical? Because this is the starting initial waterfall model that it has been used, and these are very straightforward steps that the approach of conducting the different phases of software life cycles. Okay, and let's see what happening in every phase. Okay, now look, before going to that, in general, the time overall time effort or the time that you can say that it may takes on the different phases is basically you can see from the requirement space is a bit less, design is taking more, coding is taking a bit more, testing is also taking effort. I'm talking about time, effort, and the most time taking or most effort giving phase is maintenance. Okay, maintenance. So normally the phase between requirement specification and analysis to testing, they are basically called development phase. Okay, these first four phases, they are basically called development phase. And then once it is tested and it has been deployed to the customer side, okay, or it is in use, okay, it is in use, then it go enter into the maintenance phase. Okay, maintenance phase, it will go inside that. And among the different development phases also, testing actually consume maximum effort. Okay, because this is very important. Coding you can do anything, but to make it error free, bug free, you have to have a very good testing steps or measures. Okay, so that only actually detect the errors which are there in remaining phases. So testing may detect some error in the coding, and then while debugging that error, okay, you may observe that there may be some flaws in the design. Okay, and while correcting the design itself, you may observe that there may be some error in the requirement phase or requirement specification analysis phase. So it may that can propagate. Okay, that it's not one time job. Okay, it's not a one time job key. I'll do the requirement specification analysis, then it's straightforward with an assumption that there will be no error in the specification step. Then someone conduct the design with your assumptions, there will be no error in the design, so it will propagate to the next step or next phase, that is coding. And coding will assume that my coding is perfectly okay, so it will go for the testing. And then once it is testing is done, they go for the deployment, or actual working software will going to be in the place. So but that is not the real, in reality that is not happening. Okay, the bugs or error can occur at any moment of time. Okay, any moment of time, and that may be not because error in that particular phase. It is maybe due to the error or bugs in some of the previous phases. Okay, so that is one of the thing that I'll come into that basically. So what happened basically, they basically define, most of the organizations, they basically defines the output or deliverables of every phase. Say after requirement specification analysis there must be some deliverables. After designing of the software there must be some deliverables or some outputs or some documentations, something it should be there, that can be pass it to the next phase. Say requirement analysis to what is called design to coding to testing. So there must be some deliverables, some form of documentation, some other form of delivery. Say after coding there must be that code, the program, the code, the developed code, as well as the documentation may be given it to the testing phase. Okay, so that means every phase, after completion of every phase, there must be something which will going to be transferred from one phase to the other phase. And so where to start, where to end, that also criteria to be specified for every phase. Okay, so as I have mentioned, what are the things that they normally follow? That is basically the specification of the software. The specification means how the ultimate software will going to be look like. Okay, so and what is the design of that software, the architecture of the software, how and that design will going to based on the design itself, it will go for the coding and all, and then it go for the testing, and then project management, of course. So everything having company to company, having a specific methodologies they normally adapt follow, for this all these things: specification, design, testing, coding, of course the project management, because project management is related to the all the phases. They will going to control the overall management of that particular project. So I mean, every software company is having a standard protocols they normally follow. Okay, every organization they follow some software development methodology, and that you'll observe that when if you join some companies and if you leave one company to the other company, you're going to observe that there are different methodologies they normally adapt. So their style of working is different from one company to the other company, because they have a different set of experienced people, they have different set of type of projects that they are handling, and possibly the way of managing these things also different. So their methodology is also going to be different, and that you need to be followed as per that company. You cannot have your own style of freedom to do any work. You have to be strictly, you have to follow the company's protocol key to for the software SDLC. Okay, and that is why I mean the fresh engineer should know, okay, what the organization style of working. Okay, what is the style of working, or what's the SDLC that a particular company is basically following, while developing a software. Okay, so that for that they normally give some certain level of training, okay, to the fresh engineer with the help of thorough there is a series of programs. Okay. Mm, so uh, so basically, so that is the thing that they I mean, if you enter into some of the companies, they will teach you. I mean, they will let you know, okay, what is the process that the company follows for that software development. Okay. Now let's start with the first phase, that is called feasibility study. See, feasibility means what? Feasibility means whether it is possible or not. Okay. So, so that is the main target of that before going to take up that project, because it's a time-taking job. It's a very high cost, costly affair. So whenever some client they approach a company for a software development, software development. So in that case, what happens? Basically, the company people, basically they are very senior analytics analyst. They normally what they do, they interact with the client and with their initial requirement, and then based on their experience and all, they just look into that whether it is, I mean, worthy to develop that cost, which will whether that will going to bring a certain level of profit to that company or not. Okay, so that means the financial worthiness. Okay, that whether it is profitable or not. If some company taken up that particular project from a client, whether it is financially profitable or not. So this is important for financial people. Normally, company, as I mentioned earlier, they normally don't jump into very completely new type of project. Okay, normally they jump into those projects which already they having some kind of expertise. Okay, so that way, only thing is that the financial kind of thinking, how much clients is are we planning to pay. Okay, how what is the budget for everything. So accordingly, that feasibility study will going to do. And of course, if it is a very new challenging kind of project, if some clients is approaching, because there are some company who always ready to take some certain level of technically challenging projects. So in that case, the team basically also study, analyze whether technically it is possible to develop that software or not. Okay, if it is something completely arbitrary, normally the company will not going to show any interest over there. Say for example, in our university, I think in the exam department they have given certain requirement, something like that key, whatever it's a script that you have offline. I'm talking about the offline. I think there will be a scanner, automatic scanner, which will going to scan all the pages of that your access scripts, and it will going to be stored against your name or against in the database. So you should have very less human intervention should be there. So I mean, is it possible? So these are the things which need a new technical I mean, intervention or new methods to be developed for that. So most of the companies, they don't show any interest because they don't have any knowledge and they don't want to do very much bigger experiments or something new things they would like to do. Okay, until unless they do not have may not have expertise, then if they taken it up also, then if they cannot do, then it will be a big chaos that may happen at the end, because there will be a legal agreement happen between the client and the company, so they cannot deviate from that. So normally companies remain very careful while selecting or taking up any new project. So that feasibility study, that is the initial study, without jumping into that project, starting that project, they based on their experience, the senior people, they are by talking with the company people, sorry, client, they try to guess if whether really it is possible to develop or not. Two ways: one is financially, another is technically. Okay, so firstly what happened, firstly roughly they understand the customer's need. Okay, and then for that initially they collect different data. I mean, from their initial some input from there. I mean, I'm not talking about the numerical inputs, I'm talking about that what client says, what is their input to the system, what is the output they are expecting from the system. Okay, and what are the activities, we normally call it as a process. Okay, the what are the activities or functions that functionalities that the software is going to play or do. Okay, and what are the output of that systems. So and then what are the restrictions, constraints which are there in over there. Say let us assume in your case, in examination system. Now what examination system wants that when because whenever you have taken an admission, you have filled it up online form, and all the details are already stored over there. Now they want that whenever you have taken admission, so in the exam system also there will be going to be a very smooth migration from that, all the details from the admission database to the examination database. Okay, without any hassle, without any problem, there will be some migration from this to this. Okay, because they are two different, completely different system. One is admission system, another is examination system. So they cannot be integrated directly because it's very sensitive examination system. So, but you need all the data. No need to type by someone again and again. All those things, whatever data it has been initially given, that data will going to be migrated to the examination database. So these are the some of the requirements that my client may give it to the, or customer may give it to the company. "Okay, I need these things. This should be the input to the system." And say roll number. If it gives a roll number, a student can able to see their results on their screen, and they can download their results. So that is their input screen, that is their output. What should be the output, and what is the activity that I mean the functions that software will provide. Okay, and what are the constraints that you put it, say while downloading the mark sheets and all, it should not be open, it should be OTP based downloading and everything. So lot of restrictions you can put it over there, what we call it as a various constraints. So everything need to be collected at the early stage with the by series of meetings with the client, through presentations, meeting, everything. And then after that they do the initial analysis of feasibility study, and then finally they come up to the client key, okay, fine, it is worthy for taking that project or not, or they may reject, we are not interested to take that project. So that is the thing, that feasibility study basically do that. So as I mentioned, so it's basically it's phase of a phase of idea growing, of what the client wants. Okay, that overall understanding, what the client wants for to develop. Okay, and then what they do basically, they come back and they try to chalk out different alternative solutions. Okay, we can go ahead in this way, we can give the solution in this way. So different solution strategies they can think of. Okay, it can be many, say we're going to